The restaurant fell silent as Mark slid into the empty chair across from Ellie. Her mascara-streaked face looked up in shock, recognition dawning in her eyes. "What are you doing here?" she whispered, hastily wiping away tears. Mark, the man who had once been married to her sister, placed his hand gently on the table. "Nobody deserves to be left alone like this," he said quietly. "Not even my ex-wife's sister." What happened next would change both their lives forever, proving that sometimes the most unexpected connections arise from our most painful moments. If you've ever believed in second chances or the power of kindness, hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories that remind us of the beauty in human connection. Your support helps us bring these emotional journeys to life. Ellie Matthews checked her watch for the 5th time in 15 minutes. 45 minutes late. The sympathetic glances from the waitstaff were becoming unbearable, each one a small wound to her already fragile confidence. At 38, this wasn't her first blind date, but it might be her last. The reservation had been for 7 p.m. at Bellini's, one of the most romantic restaurants in the city, and here she sat alone, nursing her second glass of wine. "Would you like to order, ma'am?" the waiter asked gently, his eyes betraying the pity she dreaded. "Just a few more minutes," she replied, the same answer she'd given twice already. Her phone remained stubbornly silent, no text, no call, no explanation from the man her friend had sworn was perfect for her. Across town, Mark Sullivan was having his own dinner crisis. His 7-year-old daughter, Lily, had refused to eat the pasta he'd prepared, and now sat with arms crossed, her lower lip jutting out in defiance. "Sweetie, please. Just a few bites," Mark pleaded, exhaustion evident in his voice. Single parenthood had been his reality for 3 years now, ever since Catherine had decided family life wasn't for her after all. "Mommy makes it better," Lily muttered, pushing the plate away. Mark felt the familiar sting of those words. "Your mom isn't here right now," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "It's just us, kiddo." His phone buzzed with a text from his babysitter, Mrs. Hernandez. Something came up. "Can't make it tomorrow night for your work event." Mark sighed. Another problem to solve. Being a single dad and maintaining his career as an architect meant constantly juggling, constantly disappointing someone, usually himself. "Fine," he told Lily, "how about we order pizza?" Her face lit up instantly, the standoff forgotten. As Mark reached for his phone to place the order, he scrolled through his notifications and froze. There was a message from Catherine. "Mom says Ellie's on another disaster date at Bellini's. Just thought you might find it amusing." Mark frowned. Catherine's casual cruelty hadn't diminished with the divorce. She knew he'd always gotten along with her sister Ellie, the quieter, kinder Matthew's sister. In fact, during their marriage, Catherine had often accused him of preferring Ellie's company to hers, an unfair accusation that had nonetheless created tension between all of them. After ordering the pizza, Mark couldn't shake the image of Ellie sitting alone in that fancy restaurant. Unlike Catherine, Ellie had been good to Lily, sending birthday gifts and Christmas presents even after the divorce, though Catherine had eventually put a stop to that contact too. "Lily," he said suddenly, "how would you feel about going out for pizza instead? There's someone I think we should check on." Back at Bellini's, Ellie had finally accepted the truth. She'd been stood up, and it was time to face the humiliation of asking for the check for her drinks and the bread she'd nervously shredded but not eaten. As she fumbled in her purse for her credit card, she caught sight of her reflection in the mirrored wall, her carefully applied makeup, the new dress she'd splurged on, the hopeful expression now replaced with resignation. A tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. Then another. 3 years of disastrous dates since her own divorce, and somehow this rejection hurt more than the others. Perhaps because at 42, she was beginning to believe her sister Catherine's cruel assessment: some people just aren't meant to find love again. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" Ellie looked up, ready to politely dismiss whoever had approached her table, when the words died in her throat. Standing there, looking somewhat uncertain but determined, was Mark Sullivan. And beside him, clutching his hand, was a little girl with Catherine's blonde hair but Mark's kind eyes. "Mark?" Ellie whispered, mortification washing over her. Of all the people to witness her humiliation, it had to be her former brother-in-law, the man her sister had left, the man who had once been family. "Hi, Ellie," he said, his voice warm. "Lily and I were just about to have dinner, and I saw you sitting here and thought, well, maybe you'd like some company?" Ellie glanced around the restaurant, suddenly aware that several tables of diners were watching this interaction with undisguised interest. Being stood up was bad enough, becoming a spectacle was worse. "I was actually just leaving," she said quietly, her voice thick with unshed tears. Mark's expression softened. "Please don't," he said. "Lily's been asking about her Aunt Ellie." "Haven't you, sweetheart?" The little girl nodded shyly. "You sent me the unicorn book for Christmas when I was 4, she said. Daddy read it to me every night until it mysteriously disappeared," Mark finished, a shadow crossing his face. They both knew Catherine had likely thrown it away, erasing another connection to her former life. Something in Ellie broke at that moment, not from sadness about her failed date, but from the realization of all she'd lost when Catherine had severed ties with Mark. She'd lost a niece she adored and a friendship she had valued. "I suppose I could stay for a little while," she conceded, wiping away her tears. Mark smiled, pulling out the chair for Lily before taking the seat beside Ellie rather than across from her, a small gesture that didn't go unnoticed. It placed them as a unit facing the world, rather than as adversaries across a battlefield. "So," he said, picking up the menu, "what's good here?" Dinner with Mark and Lily was nothing like the romantic evening Ellie had envisioned for herself, but somehow it was better. Lily chattered about school and her friends, while Mark and Ellie carefully navigated conversation that avoided mentioning Catherine directly. The waiter, who had been watching Ellie's solitary vigil with concern, now beamed approvingly at the apparent family gathering. "How did you know I was here?" Ellie finally asked as they shared a chocolate dessert that Lily had insisted on. Mark hesitated. "Catherine texted me," he admitted. "I think she meant it as a joke, that you were on another bad date." Ellie's face flushed with embarrassment. Of course she did. She always did enjoy other people's misfortunes. "I didn't come to laugh at you," Mark said quickly. "I came because I remember how kind you were to me after the divorce. How you tried to stay in Lily's life until Catherine put a stop to it. I thought maybe I could return the favor." Ellie studied his face, searching for pity but finding only sincerity. "Well, thank you. This is much better than crying into my wine alone." "Who was he?" Mark asked. "The guy who didn't show?" "A doctor. Friend of a friend. Supposedly very eligible," Ellie sighed. "Apparently not eligible enough to actually appear for the date." "His loss," Mark said simply, and the conviction in his voice made Ellie's heart skip a beat. As they were preparing to leave, Lily tugged on Ellie's sleeve. "Can you come to my dance recital next week? Daddy always sits alone because all the other kids have 2 parents or grandparents there." Mark looked mortified. "Lily, that's not appropriate to." "I'd love to," Ellie interrupted, surprising herself as much as Mark. "If your dad doesn't mind, that is." Their eyes met over Lily's head, and something unspoken passed between them, an acknowledgement of shared pain, of lost connections, of the possibility of something new. "I don't mind at all," Mark said softly. As they walked out of the restaurant together, Ellie was acutely aware of the stares following them. To the other diners, it must have looked like a dramatic scene from a movie, the woman abandoned on a date, rescued by a handsome stranger who turned out to be not so strange after all. What they couldn't see was the complicated history, the tangled family connections, or the tentative hope beginning to bloom in both Mark and Ellie's hearts. The following week brought a flurry of text messages between Mark and Ellie, casual at first, then increasingly personal. Ellie learned that Mark had struggled to balance his architectural firm with single parenthood. Mark discovered that Ellie had reinvented herself after her own divorce, leaving her corporate job to open a small bookstore that barely broke even but brought her joy. Neither mentioned Catherine, though her presence hovered like a ghost between them. It was Lily who finally broke the unspoken rule during a phone call when Ellie called to confirm the time of the dance recital. "Mommy says it's weird that you're talking to Daddy," the little girl announced with the brutal honesty of a 7-year-old. Ellie froze. "You told your mom about me?" "She called yesterday. I told her you're coming to my dance." She got really quiet and then said it was weird. In the background, Ellie could hear Mark's voice. "Lily, who are you talking to? Give me the phone, please." There was a shuffling sound, and then Mark was on the line. "I'm so sorry about that," he said, his voice tight. "Catherine called for her monthly check-in with Lily. I didn't know she'd mention you." "It's okay," Ellie said, though her stomach churned with anxiety. "But maybe this isn't a good idea. The recital, I mean. I don't want to cause problems." "The only problem would be disappointing Lily," Mark replied firmly. "Catherine gave up the right to dictate who's in our lives when she walked out. Please come. It would mean a lot to both of us." The "both of us" lingered in Ellie's mind long after they'd hung up. Was she crossing a line? Was there an unwritten rule about forming relationships with your sister's ex-husband? But then, Catherine had broken plenty of rules when she'd abandoned her family for a new life with her wealthy colleague. The night of the recital, Ellie arrived early, her stomach in knots. She'd chosen her outfit carefully, a modest blue dress that was pretty without being too dressy. She carried a small bouquet of flowers for Lily and found a seat in the middle of the auditorium, saving a spot beside her for Mark. When he slid into the seat 15 minutes later, slightly out of breath and apologizing for the traffic, Ellie felt a rush of warmth that had nothing to do with the crowded room. "Thank you for coming," he whispered as the lights dimmed. "It means everything to her." "And to you?" Ellie asked before she could stop herself. In the darkness, his hand found hers. "More than I can say," he admitted. Lily's dance group performed a somewhat chaotic rendition of a song from Frozen, with Lily front and center, her face serious with concentration. When she spotted Mark and Ellie in the audience, her smile was so radiant that Ellie felt tears spring to her eyes. After the performance, as they waited for Lily to change out of her costume, a woman approached them, her expression curious. "You must be Lily's mom," she said to Ellie. "She looks just like you around the eyes." Before Ellie could correct her, Mark stepped in. "This is Ellie, Lily's aunt. Her mother couldn't be here tonight." The woman looked embarrassed. "Oh, I'm sorry for assuming. It's just, Lily was so excited that you were both coming. She told everyone in class that her dad and her Aunt Ellie were going to be in the audience cheering for her." As the woman walked away, Ellie turned to Mark. "I didn't realize it meant so much to her." "Kids need family," Mark said simply. "In whatever form it takes." The word family hung between them, loaded with possibility and complication. 2 months later, Ellie was closing up her bookstore when the bell above the door jingled. Looking up, she was surprised to see Catherine standing there, as elegant and intimidating as ever in her designer clothes and perfect makeup. "So it's true," Catherine said without preamble. "You and Mark." Ellie's heart raced, but she kept her voice steady. "Hello to you too, Catherine. It's been 3 years since you've bothered to speak to me? Don't change the subject. Mom told me you've been playing house with my husband and daughter." "Ex-husband," Ellie corrected. "And yes, I've been spending time with Mark and Lily. They're good people who deserved better than being abandoned." Catherine's perfect features contorted with anger. "You always wanted what was mine. Even back in high school, you envied everything I had." Ellie laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Is that what you tell yourself? That I envied you? I pitied you, Catherine. I pitied you then, and I pity you now. Because you had everything, a good man who loved you, a beautiful daughter, a family, and you threw it away because it wasn't exciting enough. You have no idea what my marriage was like, Catherine hissed. I know Mark was devastated when you left. I know Lily still cries for you sometimes. And I know neither of them deserved what you did to them. Catherine stepped closer, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. If you think I'm going to let you replace me in my daughter's life, you're mistaken. I'm still her mother. A mother who sees her child once a month, if that, Ellie replied, standing her ground. A mother who forgot her last birthday. I'm not trying to replace you, Catherine. No one could. But Lily needs people who are actually there for her. And Mark? Is he just collateral benefit in your quest to play mommy? The question hit Ellie like a slap. Was that what people thought? That she was using Lily to get to Mark? Or using Mark to have the family she'd never managed to create in her own marriage? Mark and I are friends, she said carefully. We care about each other. And yes, there might be something more developing, but it has nothing to do with you or the past. It's about who we are now. Catherine studied her sister's face, searching for weakness or guilt but finding only resolve. Finally, she stepped back. Mom says you're making a mistake. That it can only end badly. Ellie sighed. Their mother had always favored Catherine, always taken her side. Mom is entitled to her opinion. But this isn't her life, or yours. It's mine. After Catherine left, Ellie sat in her darkened bookstore for a long time, thinking about choices and consequences. When her phone buzzed with a text from Mark asking if she was still coming for dinner, she made her decision. On my way, she typed. And Mark? There's something we need to talk about. That night, after Lily was asleep, Mark and Ellie sat on his back porch, the summer air heavy with the scent of jasmine from the garden Ellie had helped plant. Catherine came to see me today, Ellie said, watching his face carefully. Mark's expression tightened. What did she want? To warn me off, essentially. She seems to think I'm trying to replace her. That's ridiculous, Mark said, but there was a question in his eyes. Ellie took a deep breath. Mark, I need to know. Is that what this is? Am I some kind of replacement for what you lost? The convenient sister-in-law who already knows your history, who Lily already has a connection with? Mark was silent for so long that Ellie's heart began to sink. Then he reached for her hand. When Catherine left, he said slowly, I was devastated. Not just because I lost my wife, but because I lost my vision of what our life was supposed to be. The perfect family, the perfect home, the perfect future. It took me a long time to realize that none of it had been real. Catherine was playing a role she never wanted, and I was too blind to see it. He squeezed her hand gently. What I feel for you has nothing to do with Catherine or the past. It's about who you are, your kindness, your patience with Lily, the way you get excited about new books in your store, how you